the last few months, we've met with persons who manufacture plastic bags, persons in the poultry industry, the Barbados Manufacturers Association, the Barbados Chamber of Commerce and Industry. We've met with several times with the Ministry of Environment. We've had meetings with the Customs Department. We've had meetings with the Ministry of Commerce. We believe that we have taken a very holistic approach in terms of determining what at this stage in Barbados' development, and given the trajectory of the country and where we wish to take the country, we believe that we've had very wide-ranging consultation. We've spoken to the importers as well, and Cabinet has agreed that in relation to single-use plastics, petrol-based single-use plastics, as of April 1st, 2019, the importation, retail, and sale of these items will no longer be allowed in Barbados. These are petrol-based single-use cups, cutlery, being knives, forks, and spoons, straws, the plates, the single-use plates, egg trays, plastic and or styrofoam, and any styrofoam that is used in the culinary retail industry, like styrofoam used for food. In relation to straws, we have, for now, we've given a moratorium on the Tetra Pak straws, because all over the world they're still grappling with how do we handle those straws. But that is where we are on April 1st, 2019. Those items will no longer be allowed in the country, to be sold in the country, retailed in the country. In relation to plastic bags, Minister Prescod would tell you that when we started this process, our thinking was originally that on January 1st, 2019, we wanted to ban pretty much all single-use plastics, including plastic bags. Barbados, however, has an industry of persons who manufacture plastic bags. And so we extended originally the conversation to April 1st, 2019, to accommodate the manufacturers of plastic bags. It is clear to us that the industry employs a number of persons, and that even the extension to April 1st, 2019 did not allow them to make the adjustments. We've had several meetings since then, and we have determined almost as a team that the manufacturers of the single-use petrol-based plastic bags will be given until the first day in January 2020 to continue to manufacture plastic bags. But after January 1st, 2020, there will be no petrol-based plastic bags being used in Barbados either. Now, the reality is that we do not wish to come to an established industry that employs Barbadians and deprive them of opportunity. But we also know that the cost of continuing to use these things in Barbados will outweigh any potential benefits. In our conversations with the manufacturers of the plastic bags, we had agreed that over the 9 months between April and the end of December, that we will work very closely together to make sure that the manufacturers of plastic bags are in a position to make bags, but from a bio-based material, to use a different resin that would allow them to make an environmentally healthy and friendly bag, but that we will not be accepting plastic bags after that date made from any petrol base. We also had a conversation, tremendous conversations with the persons who import predominantly single-use plastics, but mostly styrofoam. And while we wanted to ban all styrofoam, it became clear to us that persons who work in the poultry industry, they use, if you look at the chicken you get, it's often on a styrofoam tray. And while, believe me, it is my intention at some point to adjust that too, because we cannot have styrofoam and plastics, these petrol-based plastics all over Barbados. They said they also needed some time. So the ban is not on the styrofoam used in the poultry industry for now, but they also know how we feel, and that we will have to have a conversation during the course of the year to determine what other alternatives they can utilize during the course of the year, hopefully, but certainly as we go into 2020. Now, if you look at the table before you, because the question will be asked, what are people going to use? How are people going to be able to survive? People have asked me, and I've had several conversations now when I go to buy food from my favorite street vendor across the street. I've said to her, you do know after April 1st, you will not be able to use this styrofoam container. And she said to me she understands that, and she's already seen some of the replacements. If you look to some of the items on the table to my right, these items here are not petrol-based. Most of these come from a natural bio-base. Either some are made from paper, some are made from sugar cane, some from bagasse. So they're bio-based, and they're strong enough to be able to carry food. Some people have said to me also, Barbadians like a lot of gravy. Can these containers handle the gravy? Well, two things. Two things.
Especially with cuckoo.
Especially with cuckoo, but two things. One, we believe the containers, how are you doing, Carlos? We believe that the containers, in many cases, are strong enough to be able to handle food. But we also know Barbadians use too much gravy. So indirectly, we're also speaking to the health of our countrymen. But we are satisfied that we have done enough consultation. We are satisfied that we gave enough time. I saw an article in the paper that seemed to suggest that we did not give the importers of the styrofoam containers enough time. I would like to say to the public that in September we started these consultations. The Prime Minister made the announcement in mid-September. I started the consultations in either late August or early September, surely. And that there were persons in the room with whom we had conversation who said to me January 1st would not be enough time to get rid of their existing stock, and that they need 6 months to get rid of the existing stock. 6 months moved us from January, because we were in September, to April, giving people enough time to move the existing stock. And unfortunately, some people have, notwithstanding the request for 6 months, have then brought in more styrofoam, needing an additional 6 months to be able to get rid of it. It will not happen in Barbados. And because I know that we have been very, very fair, and because I know that we've had the necessary consultations, and because I know that we communicated this at every single stage where we were, and also because I know that the idea came from them to give them until April 1st, that request cannot and will not be accommodated. There's a line that has to be drawn in the sand, and April 1st is that line. So after April 1st, the items that we mentioned will not be able to be used. I mean, if you have them in your house, nobody's going to come in your house and stop you from using them. But I would like to encourage Barbadians to get involved in this movement that we are trying to bring to the public, to recognize that the reason we're doing this is for the sake of Barbados, and to discourage anybody from using those products only because it doesn't lend to the upliftment and to the benefit of this country in the long term. Barbados has to be a value-driven country. We have large expectations for ourselves. We've said that we want to be fossil fuel free by 2030. We want to have a renewable platform. We want to be a country that when we speak to the world, we speak to the world as an environmentally friendly country and destination. And that these are the things that we must do if our words and our actions are to be aligned. And so I hope that we've made ourselves clear in relation to where we stand on single-use plastics. The Minister and I have been having tremendous conversation from the start in relation to where we stand on this matter. Our ministries and other ministries will work very closely to enforce it. We're already speaking with the CPC, and by April 1st, the necessary legislation will be in place to give effect to the ban. But it really isn't, for me, a case where we want to use a big stick policy to drive people. People are not heard. You know, we want people to come to the understanding that we are doing this for the development of Barbados. And that is why I spent so much time working during the last few months with the manufacturers, with the importers. That is why any importer or manufacturer who's fair to me, to the ministry, and to the government will tell you that we've made several compromises along the way. I also should say, before we start taking questions, that over the next few weeks, certainly the 6 weeks approaching April 1st, there's going to be a massive PR program involving community outreaches, utilizing the people who are in the industry to drive home the point, and we hope Barbadians all get involved in a movement to save Barbados.
I just want to make it very clear that we'll be monitoring all materials, all alternative materials that are coming into the country. There are some materials that just by seeing them, it is difficult to make a distinction if these materials are plastic. And we also know that there are some not so wholesome individuals, not in Barbados, that will export materials because they're interested in exclusively profit and they're not concerned about the health of Barbadians. So we're going to be monitoring the stuff that is coming. I've seen some bags and so on that I can't tell you if they're plastic or not. We also know that there's some produce that's coming in, products rather is coming in, and they're made out of cassava as well. The other thing is that we had a challenge because we recognized that lots of pharmaceutical products that were coming in are in plastic. The ban would not be extended to that. It would not be extended to products that are used for other hygienic purposes. But, you know, that was a debate that continued for a considerable time because the margin and we felt that if we don't hold a tight line in certain areas, there might be some people that might believe that they can circumvent the intention of the government on these issues, but I want you to know that we are cognizant of that. The plastic bottles, right? Mm-hmm. The plastic bottles that lots of young men and women today who are trying to get involved in the production of special juices and so on, fruit juices, golden apple juice, Mobi, and things of that kind. We are not going to put the ban there. Exactly. What we will do is to make sure that we have the required legislation in place that these containers will be returned. And that is a concept that came from one of my friends who is within my view that we need to find a way of doing that. So we would have a kind of retainers legislation which would allow consumers to take them back to the suppliers, and hopefully some rewards will come from the returns, and then we will put it through a recycling process. That would be done through my ministry. So wherever there are areas that you can identify that we do not have the foresight to observe, we'll be happy if you can at least make any suggestions, because ultimately it's for the common good of every Barbadian. So I think that was important to complement what Minister Humphrey said.
I want to thank you really for coming and for having this conversation with us. Thank you all very much.